What up, gamers? I'm Jason.
I'm Julie.
And today on Dice & Dragons, it's done at last. We have completed the campaign for The Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth, Spreading War, designed by published by Fantasy Flight Games, designed by Grace, Holdinghaus, and Philip D. Henry. This particular expansion, anyway. Now I'm going to toss it over to Julie, who's going to tell you more about the game itself.
So it is a cooperative dungeon crawl adventure, right?
Yeah. More of an adventure game than a dungeon crawl, though.
Okay.
Because you're going across the map and exploring.
Okay. That's a little bit of a dungeon crawl. It is for 1 to 5 players, not 6. It plays it says about 60 minutes. Yeah, it depends.
You know what? It might average out to about 60 minutes because sometimes there's really quick missions, especially in this campaign because of the river crossing that you do. But I would say that overall, 60 to 90 seems to be what we found.
Yeah, and it's for ages 14 and above.
Yeah, so in the Spreading War, and this is just going to be an intro if you've already seen our review of it. Well, I'm going to cover it again in case you just want to see what the whole campaign is about, and you skip that. Also, there's a card up there, so if you want to go back and check out our review, feel free. Well, now that that's out of the way, in the Spreading War, you are journeying to the lands of Rohan and Gondor. They are under siege by mercenaries, and it's your job to investigate what's going on because Rohan is blaming Gondor, Gondor is blaming Rohan. You know, we're the heroes. You've seen the TV series now, maybe the movies. Well, they're not in the TV series, but you get my drift. You know that these two nations aren't necessarily the ones that are messing with each other. So you have to figure out what's going on and stop these mercenaries from plunging the region into chaos as we're leading into the Lord of the Rings. Now you're going to have some new characters. You have Calamanth Took. You're going to have Boromir. You've got Freyahild, who's a shield maiden of Rohan. And I don't remember the other two because we haven't played as them yet. We've got Beorn the Bjorning. We have Renarian the Elf Trickster. And you were playing as Dwalin, the Dwarven Lorekeeper. So you're going to be questing across the realm as well as going on to different battle maps and fighting the mercenaries as you do your best to complete the objectives of your scenario. Now, as there's not going to be any components or anything like that, we do have some cool pictures from the game. So we'll probably flash maybe 1 or 2 still shots. You can see just what all the components look like on the table as we were going through the end of the campaign. And then we're going to be coming back at you with our review. So on that note, we're now going to
grab a drink,
grab our best friend and member of our fellowship. Yeah, and I can't say take it to the table one more time, so we'll say we'll be back in a flash. So, Julie, what did you think of the full campaign for The Lord of the Rings, Journeys in Middle-earth, Spreading War? We already reviewed it when we were about a third to half of the way through. Now that it's done, is your review score going to change? Is it going to be the same? I don't know. I'm sure someone that watches the channel might be able to let us know down in the comments because we did not review our thoughts before doing this video. We like to do it fresh and a little raw.
I honestly have no idea what score I actually gave it. I
think it's an 8.
Well, I do know I appreciated the game up to when we reviewed it. I was having fun, and it didn't disappoint. It continued. It didn't drag on too long. I mean, I think the fact that we took this long might lead some people to believe that we weren't enjoying it. That's why we kept putting it off, and it's quite the opposite. We do. I mean, at least we've talked about it. We both really enjoyed this, and every time we take it out, we're like, oh yeah, we remember why we like it so much. It's just time consuming and
less time consuming than some games, but still time consuming.
Yeah, but it's also hard to. I mean, yes, we have it underneath. We had it underneath the vault. It's Jason. I'm sure you're happy that it's
yes,
cleared out
I
finally.
Love this vault.
But we had.
We got other stuff to put in there now.
we had it under there, but it's just not as satisfying to just play a mission and then put it away and then get back to it maybe a week or two later.
Because we're losing a lot of time just with setup and teardown. This is not an easy game to set up, especially when you've got all of the content, and we have all of it. We'll talk a little bit more about that afterwards.
So basically we had an opportunity to play a couple days in a row when we were on vacation, and
I think we would have finished earlier though. If we'd known it was only 3 missions left, we might have made the push.
probably would have. Anyways, the story was great. I really enjoyed the story of it. The last mission was a lot longer than I thought. It kind of felt like a 3-parter.
Well, it didn't take that long. I think each chunk was about 30 to 45 minutes, so it ran longer than most missions. But that's been pretty much standard in all of the campaigns. The last mission, we've always felt to sort of hit the 2-hour mark or so.
Yeah.
Which isn't that bad, actually.
So it was nice to fight against the Oliphant.
The siege towers.
Yeah, the siege tower was pretty cool. It's funny when you see the wolf come back. I was like, you don't scare me so much anymore.
Yeah, the Warg Riders were pretty scary at the start, and then we didn't see them for a long time. Then they came back. It's like, yeah, we've seen fell beasts, hill trolls, and you playing the lore keeper. We had a ton of lore, so we were very well geared up. Actually, I think I made a mistake, and I neglected to upgrade my bow and arrow. That I had my short bow, actually, bow and arrow. What was I thinking there? To the max level 4 version, because there's a few things I didn't like about it. But when you're playing the Trickster, you can sort of compensate for it. And I forgot how good the lethal ability was. Like 12 hits lethal can pretty much take out a lot of stuff. So just to be clear, we'd maxed out our lore. We were beyond maxed out our lore, and we were very well geared when it came to the end of the game. And it wasn't all that difficult for us.
No, it wasn't. I mean, even if the wrong cards come up, somebody else could come in and fix things up. So
we did get pushed, like towards the end of the last few missions. It pushed us. You had to do a last stand based on fear. There was a couple times where I was pretty close to having to do a last stand as well. So it did get a little messy, but it wasn't the most difficult for us. That being said, this is old hat for us now. We're at close to 80 plays, if not over 80 plays of the game. By this time the last campaign has come out, we'll probably be somewhere like at 100 plays. So we know how to play the game. We know the system. We know how to work the system and what we're doing.
Exactly. And that it's familiar, as you said, you called it old hat. It's familiar, and it's familiar for a reason. We enjoy playing it. It doesn't disappoint. For me, it's always one of those games that I really enjoy playing. Now, I wouldn't recommend it. I still wouldn't recommend it to absolutely everybody. It is...
You gotta like apps too.
You gotta like the app. You gotta like an adventure style game, campaign style game. If you want something quick and easy to play, this isn't the game for you.
No, but what I do like about this specific campaign is ours totaled 14 missions that included doing the river crossings, which we did probably about 4 or 5 times, and those were typically only about a half hour. So in terms of the length of the campaign, this felt a little bit shorter in terms of just total playtime, but that wasn't necessarily a bad thing. It fit very well the world of Lord of the Rings. I liked helping out a young Denethor. I liked being in the realm of Rohan and the realm of Gondor, and really the last mission felt like the movies. You were running through the city trying to hold out for reinforcements to arrive. Now, that's all I'm going to say about the last mission. I don't want to spoil it anymore. You can probably figure out who the enemy is going to be as you're progressing through it, especially if you do know the lore for Tolkien, and I thought the lore was used very well. But every mission was fun, entertaining. I mean, we even had that one where we traveled to the other country that was sending sending the mercenaries, and we were pretty much just exploring the whole time, and it didn't feel dull. There was very little to no combat, and I think this campaign in particular probably was the best executed adventure style of all of them. We've had other ones that had a lot more combat. Actually, the original one, The Bones of Arnor, I think is probably still the most difficult in terms of accomplishing, or at least it was with the base box. If you're not using Bearvor as Pathfinder, to really get those that movement around the map can be very difficult. Something that's been fixed by having a lot more characters with sprint in subsequent expansions. But I can also feel that this system is well refined now. They know what they're doing. They know what to put out. And this definitely is still my favorite expansion, and it might be my favorite campaign. That being said, I do think it doesn't necessarily have the strongest heroes. Out of the 4 that we played, I mentioned during our review, and I stand by it, I think Beorn is a disappointment. I was really satisfied with Renarian, probably one of my new favorite heroes. Freylson's really good. Dwellin's great. The new cards that they add in are great. Boromir's special ability, which was one of the reasons why I didn't pick him, just seemed fairly lame. And I didn't really see the place of Calaman Took. And comparing those 3 characters to some of the other ones we have, maybe the other ones are a little broken. I mean, Arwen is still probably maybe one of my favorites. I still remember the first time I was playing it, so you're like, you play her, you be the healer. Then you watch me using knives and slings and healing everyone, you're like, this is kind of broken. Why is she so good? You're like, you're the healer, you don't need to take out did you just kill a group of orcs? Yes I did. Which is kind of cool too.
I mean, I don't want to repeat everything Jason said, so I'm going to agree. I still think this was it's a very fun campaign. I don't remember with enough detail all the other ones to say if this was my favorite campaign. I do know that it was a lot of fun.
I think it just mixes both aspects
Agreed.
Of the adventure and the battle aspect really come together the most in this campaign. That's why I think it's my favorite. I'm not going to say it's my favorite story-wise. I really appreciate the story as well. But I would say that some of the other ones felt a lot more combat heavy, where this one they were like, I think we know how to make adventures now. And they were able to really do that well, whether it was on a journey map or a battle map. And the one thing I do want to talk about, because there will be no more big box expansions for Journeys in Middle-earth. There is a figure pack coming, which is going to add in the big bad for this campaign, which is usually what happens, and the big bad for the next digital campaign. Now, they've not said that they will not be making any more content for Journeys in Middle-earth. I feel like this may be Fantasy Flight Games trying out a new strategy of building out a game, getting it to a certain point, and then releasing more content digitally or doing smaller figure packs and maybe some hero expansions if they decide to do that in the future, just adding a couple of miniatures and a couple of cards and characters. And I was curious, Julie, what you thought about that now that this is the end of the big boxes, because we've got all the content.
I don't have a problem with that. If we have new campaigns and we can use the same heroes and the same villains and monsters, I'm no problem with that.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. I think ending the big box expansions is probably a good thing. We have all of Descent 2nd Edition. I can tell you one thing, playing all of Descent 2nd Edition, if you turn on all the expansions in the app, is an absolute nightmare, and we love Descent 2nd Edition. So you really need to curate your experience. Now, with having just the big box expansions that add a lot of the content, and then the figure packs adding a small amount of cards and some figures, it's very easy right now to turn everything on. It still becomes a big table hog, but it's not that unwieldy. It's right on the edge of being a chore to use all of the content. That being said, you can always exclude one of the big boxes, and the way everything's labeled, it's fairly easy to do. But I think going forward, we're going to be using all of our content, and provided they keep giving us small expansions and new campaigns, this is going to be one that's still regularly going to hit the table. And if it is something that Fantasy Flight wants to do, and let's say we get another even like 2, 3, 4 more campaigns, if they call it at that point, I mean, then we're sitting at like 6 or 7 campaigns for the game, tons of replayability. I know a lot of people are worried about the app being maintained and updated. The fact that it's on Steam as well as on the Google Play Store, I know Apple is a little bit more finicky, but with the Play Store implementation, the fact that you can use Chromebooks and a whole lot of other stuff, and the fact that it's on Steam should mean that the content is fairly well available constantly, unless they decide to sunset the game entirely. But I can't see them necessarily doing that because of some stuff that's happened, especially with the rights to Lord of the Rings actually going to Asmodee's parent company, who also own Fantasy Flight Games. So that's going to be, they said no more big box expansions, but who knows? They've got maybe a whole lot more stuff that they can do now. So, on that note, Julie, we've played the whole campaign. I talked a little bit off topic there. Hopefully you enjoyed that conversation as well as those points. What is your score of this now that we've gone through the whole thing?
Well, I'm going to take your word for it that my score was an 8. I would give it an 8 again.
Well, at least between the two of us, it was an 8. That's what I saw on Board Game Geek. Yes, we put our aggregated scores out there. So if you're curious what we think about a game and we reviewed it, check those out. And I'm going to give it an 8 as well. I don't remember if I went higher with an 8.5. I might have. I think there was maybe a little bit of variance there. I don't quite remember. But Bjorn and the Bjorning was just a little bit too much of a disappointment. I really would have liked to have a card that started with the ability to transform back and forth into the bear. The fact you have to draw a card and it's, very situational. He's very good at killing single targets, really mauling them. But that wasn't always the most useful because sometimes there's big groups of orcs and cleaving them is a lot more fun. So an 8 it is, and very happy we got to finish it and looking forward to playing more. Now, when will we go back and play some of the old campaigns? I've got no idea. We've got tons of campaigns to play, but it's always something it's good to know that we have all this stuff and that we can go back to it. And when the little guy is a little bit older, maybe he'll like this stuff as much as we do, so that'll be even better to go back to it a few years later.
So on that note, it's time to remind you to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell to be notified when we have some new content for you.
And take a look down below in the video description. You'll find links to all of our social media feeds, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. If you'd like to see some pictures of Julie and I playing the Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth, there are plenty from all our campaigns out there. For Spreading More, there are a bunch that are recently on the social media feeds. Also down there is a link to multizone.ca, a great Canadian game store. You're looking to get Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth, any of the expansions, pre-order the new figure pack. Click that link, you'll get 10% off your next purchase, and it's a great way to support the channel. So a portion of that purchase will be returned to us. And then popping up in front of us are going to be links to some of our previously released videos. In front of me will be our most recent release. In front of Julie will be which of the expansions?
Your pick.
All right, so we'll go back to the Moria expansion, the other big box one. I don't remember the name of it. It's slipping my mind right now. Sorry. And on that note, we're now going to grab our drink, grab our best friend and member of the fellowship, and we're going to remind you to keep playing games.